Hello everyone! Welcome to the Theories of International Relations course. We will continue with Chapter 8, English School of International Relations. In this chapter, we will firstly talk about the debate about the English school and then the historical development of the English school, basic premises and arguments of the English school, and lastly, English school versus other schools and its merits. We will start with the debate about the English school. The term English school was first coined by Roy Jones in an article in 1981. It was titled as the English School of International Relations, a case for closure. Jones argued that a group of scholars basically gathered at London School of Economics could be taken as forming a distinct school of international relations, and this school could be named as English School. Jones argued that the school did not make a significant contribution to the study of international relations, and it was time to close it. Jones' coinage and arguments sparked a debate and conversation within the literature of international relations throughout the 1980s and 1990s. There were basically two issues: whether there was a distinct English School of International Relations, and, if yes, what were its distinctive characteristics and contributions. In order to speak of the existence of a distinct English school, or any school within a particular discipline for that matter, the three conditions must be satisfied. 1. There must be some commonalities of the views in terms of the subject matter, concepts, principles, and methods among the scholars or members in concern. 2. Conscious self-identification with the school by the members. And 3. Recognition by the larger community of the discipline. The commonality of the view is required because if the scholars in concern do not have anything in common, then we cannot speak of them as being part of a group, let alone a distinct school. We can now move on to the historical development of the English school. A convenient date for the beginning of the English school is 1959, when the British Committee on the Theory of International Politics first met at the Peterhouse College of Cambridge University. Although the British Committee was founded by an initial American funding, it has been a prevalent view in the literature of international relations that the English school was somewhat posed against the dominance of American approaches to the study of international relations, especially American school science approaches. The British Committee met for the first time in 1959 and then worked well into the mid-1980s. Initially, the committee met 3 times a year and discussed the selected issues over a week. The committee was composed of scholars coming from different disciplines, not just those coming from the discipline of international relations. It included different historians, economists, philosophers, and people from the practice. As the committee included people from the practice, not just the theorists, it is fair to say that English school argued for the unity of the theory and practice. It is reasonable to argue that for the English school, theory and theorizing is a collective endeavor rather than the output of a single mind. In other words, theory emerges out of a tradition and consensual discussion rather than some abstractions by an individual able scholar. Let's move on to the basic premises and arguments of the English school. One of the basic arguments of the school is ontological and epistemological pluralism. The English school argues that the reality of international relations cannot be reduced to a single element. It is always multidimensional. In other words, the reality of international relations is composed of ontologically plural phenomena. International society has been the core concept of the English school from very early on, as it was one of the concepts discussed within the British Committee. English school argues that international relations constitute a society just like individual national societies. Contrary to the seemingly anarchical and disorderly nature of international relations, it is argued that order prevails and there are fewer violations than supposed in international relations. The English school from very early on highlighted the significance of values and cultural or civilizational elements in international relations. For the English school, Identity, culture, civilization, and values are part of the practice of international system. The English school argues that it is not possible to explain and understand the phenomena of international relations simply by referring to power or welfare. We can now proceed to our concluding topic, English school versus other schools and its merits. The international system conception of the school is very much similar to the system conception found in realist or neo-realist schools, as both of them consider system in terms of an interdependence relationship, and both of them take the sovereign nation-states as the primary members. Yet their conceptions are not identical, as the realist conception is much more mechanical and structural, whereas English schools is much more historical. English school and constructivist school too have similarities and differences. They both strive to show the social basis of international relations, and for both of them, society is constructed with norms and institutions. Yet again, there are key differences. The English school has its main roots in the study of history, political theory, and international law, whereas constructivism grew out of debates about epistemology and method. One can find similarities and differences between the English school and critical theory and Marxist approaches. They share a historical orientation and concern for world community. On the other hand, contrary to the critical theorists, the English school's concern for humanity does not implicate the transcendence of the existing states and cultural identities. Historicism and voluntarism are two common grounds between the English school and post-structuralist and postmodernist approaches. Okay, this is the end of our program for Chapter 8 of the Theories of International Relations course. You can always go back and rewatch our programs. Goodbye.